I speak when it's the intro? Did that work? Did you hear
Now
me?
you speak. Hello,
Did you?
Phil.
You heard me when the intro was going, right? Because it looks like it said on the screen, "Host has muted your mic." Yes,
Yes.
Christy, we have a countdown. It's a wonderful countdown. It's a new countdown. It's better
Hello.
than whatever the other one was, which was nonsense, just random messed up stuff. Anyway, hey, welcome to the Luke Deckard show, starring Luke and me, Phil. How are
Hello.
you, Luke?
How's it going? I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. My name's Phil, in case anybody new is tuning in.
My name is Luke, in case you're new and tuning in.
Yeah, Luke, you're a writer, aren't you? You're a writer.
I am. Yes, so I'm a writer. For people who don't know, I write stories for podcasts, for Noiser podcasts. I also am working on a novel for a PhD, and I have short stories and other pieces of literature out there for consumption. If one is so inclined to hunt them down,
One is
they can
inclined.
they can do that somehow.
One is inclined.
Yes, well, go to Google.
Yeah.
But
That's
yes,
actually not bad, really. You just copy paste Luke Deckard and see what you get.
exactly.
That's right.
And you, Phil, are kind of a Renaissance man of
Oh,
the arts.
that's right. I study a lot of art related things. In fact, I'm a independent freelance artist at the moment. Yeah, doing independent freelance art. But my background has also been with film and filmmaking, as I've always wanted to do that since I was 7 years old. So,
And because of these two things, we feel
yeah.
it gives us credentials enough to sit here and critique pop culture,
That's right. No, it's true. If
as
any,
opposed,
yeah, as opposed to other people who kind of don't have
yes,
those.
as opposed to other people who are sitting in their houses screaming about pop culture, who have done nothing but buy a bunch of toys from Hot Toys and Forbidden Planet. I'm being mean.
Hot Toys. I've never gotten a Hot Toys toy. They're just too expensive.
Yeah, no, I haven't either. I mean, some of them look really cool. I'm not gonna
They
lie. I
definitely
would if
do.
I could, but
Which one would you get, like, if you had a choice of any of them?
oh
Because
my
I'm
god,
not sure personally.
that's a good question. I would need to like look at them like properly, look and see what they have.
I mean,
Um,
granted, they're all like Marvel and Star Wars, most of them, and then there's some DC movie stuff, and
well, there's
then
others. There's like Back to the Future. Like there's all sorts of things.
sure, yeah,
Um,
predominantly like the license that they get when they get Marvel or when they get Star Wars. There's a lot of characters they could make into toys, and so that's why
yes.
it becomes the dominating factor in Hot Toys. But yeah, if I had a choice, the first thing I would think of would be, it's gonna sound really weird, but like right now my brain is always going to the original Mark III Iron Man. Maybe
Oh, that's
I think that would be it.
yep. I'm just scrolling their website, and they obviously it's flashed on here that they have Wolverine from Days of Future Past,
Oh, that's
and I'm
cool. I
like,
like that one.
that would probably be one. But then these Back to the Futures look pretty cool. But probably, yeah, more than likely,
Yeah,
I'd probably fall on Wolverine because I love Wolverine.
yeah. Cade Christy Joe has a thing to say. My Hot Toys experience was buying one of the Iron Man toys from the second film and then reselling it for a big profit later when I parted with my figure collection. Woo! Well, that's great.
Which one from Iron Man 2 did you have? I mean, the Iron Man 2 suits were actually fine. I
I
quite
just
liked the one that was in the suitcase.
Oh yeah,
Um,
the portable one. Iron
yeah, except I
Man.
didn't like the triangular
No,
when he went triangular. I was like,
no one did.
that's
I don't
don't
think
like that.
anyone did. It's dumb. It's not good. And
Yeah.
then what did they do in Endgame and Infinity War? It was like a square, wasn't
It
it?
was, yeah. I honestly, after Avengers, first Avengers movies, I stopped liking most of the Iron Man suits. I guess Iron Man 3 had a couple of okay ones.
The
Um,
vanilla Coke one.
the Vanilla Coke one. Yeah, it was all right. It was okay. It was okay.
Do they still have
Um,
vanilla Coke?
I have no idea. It's a good question for the chat to go find out. Go find out if there is still vanilla Coke. Um,
Christy Joe says whichever one it was, it came with a donut for Tony. So I guess it was the
that would be
three.
that would be a round chested one, round circle
Yeah.
arc reactor shenanigan.
I wish I
So
had an arc reactor.
I mean that would be great. So Phil, how was your week? What did you do?
My week was kind of productive as I finally decided to quietly open commissions again because I had this. I don't know if I told you this, but like this past month has been just not this month, but the month before has been just way too many commissions for me, and I couldn't take it now. And then I'm like, now I understand why they have like 10 slots available when people try to
Right.
get a request. And I was like, why?
Yes.
Why would you do that? Don't you want to put as many as you want so you can, profit off of it? But now I know. Now I know. Now I've reaped what I sow, and I had way too many little tiny commissions to do. But anyway, now the commissions are back, baby, and I am really hoping to fill in those slots, which would be probably 10 in my opinion. If I can get 10 of those, 10 commissions this month before the month is out, thank you. But I got some really good ones that I'm working on. In fact, I'm actually doing a label design for a brewery in Wales. It's for Mead. And when I'm done with this podcast, that's what I'm going to be working on until I go to bed.
Nice.
And it's cool. It's cool. It's very Lord of the Rings inspired because people who that's another thing about me. In case you haven't heard or known, I also did this fan project for the Lord of the Rings. It's an audiobook with sound effects, music, and voice acting by me. I did the entire thing a long time ago, and it tends to stick around a lot. People tend to talk to me a lot about it. And,
people love it.
And that's why this brewery contacted me because they knew me from that.
There you go.
So that was fun. So
for anyone in the audience
Lord of the Ringsy.
who wants to commission Phil, he's available to do stuff.
See, look, I drew an ape, like from Planet, like a little ape right now.
Look at that little sad monkey. That sad monkey. Nice.
Anyway, Luke, what was your week like?
I had a good weekend.
What was
I had a good weekend. Good weekend and good start to the week. At the weekend I was in Oxford with Claire. We went to Oxford. Went to one of the colleges there for a little dinner. That was good fun. That was fun. That's all I'll say about that. That was fun. But the college was cool. It kind of reminded me of like Harry Potter, like a lot. It was
Really?
nice. It was a nice experience. But then yesterday was what I'm really excited about. We went to go see Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, the director's cut, at the local cinema, which was amazing.
Wow, dude, the opportunity to be able to watch such an old film, such a classic, on the big screen sounds awesome. I'm so
everyone
envious.
can tell I am a Star Trek fan from my display here.
No.
I love Star Trek. We were gonna go see The Wrath of Khan like a few months ago. It was in the cinema, but then they canceled it. I was really gutted. But I'm assuming they canceled it and brought it back now because there's been this big kind of 40th anniversary for Wrath of Khan over the last couple of months. And it was great. No, it was so fun to see the film, but see the director's cut, which is obviously slightly different to the normal cut. It adds little bits. It's not like a drastic change. It's a quite subtle change of adding little tiny bits that you might not. Some of the stuff you might not notice, but other stuff you will. The only annoying thing was I don't know if he was drunk or if he was just annoying, but there was some guy in the audience who was like really feeling it and constantly like I don't know, when in the scene where Khan drops the little worm in the helmets of Chekhov and the other guy, his captain, like the guy was like, oh no, like screaming like in his seat, like being really annoying. Yeah.
Is this the first time he was watching it or what?
No, he was like quoting as well, so he clearly knew what was going on.
Wow.
And then towards the end of the movie, there's that moment when Kirk's son David is like, "No, I'm proud to be your son," and the guy literally he starts clapping.
This must have been like a beautiful moment for this man.
I mean, I feel like it was something for him, but yeah, he was literally just sitting there
What was
clapping.
he just like?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And eventually someone
Sorry about that.
it's all right. Eventually someone was like, "Will you please be quiet?"
Really?
The most polite British way possible, but with a nice stern tone.
Oh, that's right, because you're in Britain.
Because I would have been like, "Shut the fuck, you mother." But yeah, no. But it was
Self-censorship there.
yes.
Christy says, "I'm jealous if you're getting to see that movie. Wow, so cool. Me too.
I know. It was cool. I mean, keep an eye out. They might be showing things near you.
Not here.
Well, maybe not near Phil, but maybe where Cursey Joe is. Keep it down in the cinema. Yes. Yeah. So that was a really fun experience. So I was very amped up on Star Trek. Because also the other thing is like I did recently purchase the 6-film 4K collection, right? That has the Wrath of Khan director's cut. So I was already interested to see this. I didn't realize that I was actually going to go see that yesterday until it flashed up on the screen.
No way.
That was cool. But there's also the director's cuts of the motion picture and the 6th film, Undiscovered Country. So I need to carve out some time to rewatch those 2 films so I can see the director's cuts for both of them.
Because me and you, we watched Undiscovered Country last year in the summer.
Was it last year? Was it this year? I think it was this. Was it last year?
It wasn't. It was last year in summer.
Oh, okay, cool. So it was a year ago then. Okay,
we were watching all the Treks, the Trek movies. I think we didn't watch 2. We started at 3, and I think we went on to 6.
Maybe something like that. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
that might have been it. Because Claire and I'd at least watched the first 2, and then headed on over to the others. So, shall we talk about things that we're
the topic at hand?
So there's a lot of things to talk about. Andor's out.
Andor.
There's some Blade Runner.
Cassian Andor.
Yes, there's some Blade Runner news. There's some Daredevil Born Again news. There's a lot of interesting things to talk about. But first, let's talk about Blade Runner.
That's I'm trying to Vangelis's wonderful score.
Classic score. I am a massive fan of Blade Runner. You can't see it, but there's a couple of Blade Runner figures behind me, and I have the carved horse. And the
carved horse. What about the origami?
And I don't know where it is. It's somewhere. But I have the car as well, the Blade Runner car.
I've only seen Blade Runner, the director's cut, I think. Oh, no, sorry, the final cut.
Yes, the final cut is the only one to see. To be fair, okay. I mean, I have watched the others.
Watched the others.
I think it's the European unrated European cut is really close to the final cut, but it's not. It is not the final. It is. It's not there. But it still has the kind of the cheesy ending. There's not huge differences between all of the cuts. It's a lot of subtle differences. The biggest difference, in my opinion, is the ending, where the final cut has the ambiguous ending, and that's really what people are after.
What people are always going to be debating about. Was he a replicant? He is a replicant. He's a replicant.
Yeah, which I mean that wasn't cleared up in any of the prior cuts. To be fair, it's always ambiguous as to whether he is a replicant or not. Throughout all of the cuts. But the big news is that there's it's been announced that they're going to do a Blade Runner TV series called Blade Runner 2099.
Okay, let's get into this. TV series.
So my question would be like, what exactly do you want out of this show? If you as a casual fan viewer, like what would you want out of a Blade Runner TV show? Does it even excite you, the idea of there being a Blade Runner TV show?
No.
Why not? Why no? That's such a hard answer.
Because the story has been told. Then again, I was wrong because 2049 came out and that was quite a good story. And but
Yes.
it was still quite connected to the first Blade Runner. You know, we had Harrison Ford there. You know, there was a lot of things left over from the first Blade Runner that you could continue or explore. But if it's a TV show, what is it? A prequel?
It's called Blade Runner 2099.
Oh, 2099. So it's in the future, right?
Correct.
What like the question is what could you do? Because I I'm not a big fan of Blade Runner. I like it. I appreciate it for its artistry and the influence that it's had on the world of film, but I
Mm,
don't think that like this does not like excite me. Maybe I'm a little
mm,
curious, but the fact that I think a lot of TV shows have been coming out
mm.
that were sequels, prequels
Yeah.
connected to films,
Yeah.
and most of them happen to be quite suboptimal.
Yes.
Um, I can't. You know, it's just. I think it's just same. My reaction is the same as hearing from the news that there's going to be a Blade Runner sequel. Who knows, like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So I can only say it's good if I see it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't a massive Blade Runner fan until 2049, until right before 2049 came out. I saw Blade Runner for the first time maybe a year before that, and then saw Blade Runner 2049 and just really dove in and loved it. An Blade Runner TV show is interesting to me, and I don't want to just like automatically shoot it down. Um, I would like to think that there's hope that it could be interesting.
Who's in?
What?
Yeah, but who's involved?
Well, there's interesting people involved. Not that it matters totally, but Ridley Scott is one of the like main producers of the show, so that's kind of nice. That gives a sort of a comforting feeling. Michael Green,
Sure.
who wrote Blade Runner 2049, is also involved with the show as well. That also kind of gives you a sort of a sense of, oh, okay, there's people involved with good Blade Runner involved with this show. Now, the showrunner was a producer on Halo on Paramount.
Uh,
And you have the problem of, I don't want to necessarily criticize, and judge someone's work, not judge them and say they can't do this because they've done that, because
yeah.
that could just be a whole other set of issues as to why that show was so bad.
We need to
Um,
talk about those things because people are so quick to, like what I did with my reaction right
yes.
now. It's very quick, very easy to judge people on the last thing that they did. However,
Yes.
that's exactly how the film industry or entertainment industry works as well.
To some
Probably
degree.
more on a monetary level, on a monetary scope than critically.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
And
only as good as your last thing.
I mean, yes. The other thing is what I didn't say as well is Michael Green also is attributed to writing Green Lantern, the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern, right? So this is a good example. This is a good
Yeah.
example of being like Green Lantern 2011 is terrible. It's a very bad film. But Blade Runner 2049 is terrific. Um, they both share the same writer,
Right.
So yeah. So there's a lot of interesting things involved, and like I know that there's a Blade Runner comic called Blade Runner 2019. I read it. It was fun. It just featured a new Blade Runner out there doing Blade Runner things, solving this big sort of case. Um, so it kind of demonstrated what you can do. Um, with the franchise, but the thing that does I suppose sort of worry me is you don't want to just constantly have it be this sort of replicant versus human back and forth. How far can you take that? And you know I suppose I wonder, will this pick up any of the things that were done in 2049. They
But if it's 2099,
mm,
that's like
it's a
close to
big jump.
50. Yeah,
It's a big jump. So you're really
40
far
years.
away from like even having Harrison Ford's, Rick Deckard's daughter. She would be an old woman. Will she be in it? Don't know. That's an odd one. Will they come back
But
to the?
what's her purpose in the story either? Because like,
Well, I mean, we don't have any idea what that would be.
yeah.
That's for them to decide.
Well,
But
see, these are the questions. These are the fundamental questions. This is why I want to bring up the topic of like, guy from Halo, showrunner for Blade Runner. Then you're like, oh, but like the real question is always like what Peter Jackson said when they said, do you fancy being in Lord of the Rings? You want to work on Amazon Lord of the Rings? And he's like, that's impossible to ask without a script.
well, yes.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
Never mind. This is a whole different topic.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know what you're saying, but like, it's these are the ideas that interest me, and I'm kind of like, well, I would like for them to pick up something from 2049, move something from that film forward, whether it's doing something with Deckard's daughter, or doing something with the underground cell. If you remember,
You mean the
the kind of the replicants who have that movement of being able to birth and things like that. So I'm like, there's a lot of interesting things you could do. The biggest problem that I have with this is that it's going to be an Amazon show.
Okay. Just like what we were talking about.
Yes.
Could be good, could be bad. You can't really judge it based on.
No, you can't. But I think there is. What's interesting is there's a track record with Amazon that is starting to produce more things that I'm disliking than liking. So I'm a big fan of Bosch Legacy, The Expanse, and the first season of Jack Ryan. Those were all really good Amazon original
Jack
shows.
Reacher?
Jack Ryan.
Okay.
But then the bad stuff was Jack Reacher.
That one's bad.
Was dreadful,
Okay.
unbelievably bad.
Okay.
Wheel of Time was just some of the worst. I thought that was some of the worst fantasy you could see until the Rings of Power. Right? And you're like, geez, wow, this is bonkers. So yeah, so it really is a shot in the dark. I'm like, I don't know what will happen if they can maintain like the quality of like Bosch and The Expanse and Jack Ryan, then maybe there's hope. And if they can maintain the cinematic like integrity of the first two Blade Runner movies and push the story forward with, I don't necessarily want both of those films to be kind of forgotten in the plot of this, but I also don't want them to be harking back to, Deckard and Rachel and all of that sort of stuff. So that's going to be interesting. I'm interested to see what they're going to do, but I am worried.
I mean, you've got every right to be worried.
Kirsty Joe says, I have a super old Green Lantern movie Valentine card. I got on a clearance and will still give to someone for giggles once in a while. Oh, I think I sort of remember those. I sort of remember those. So yeah, we'll see what happens with.
By the way, I'm sharing my drawing screen if you want to pop that up on occasion.
Look at that.
Look at this horrible. This is drawn from memory. This is my Star Trek ship. My what do you call that?
I mean, it looks like it's kind of like the Enterprise D. It's the sauce of the Enterprise D on a cigar.
Yeah. So you're talking about Blade Runner, so I'm doing this little Blade Runner looking alley.
Look at that. So the other thing that's interesting to me. Daredevil
Feel free to turn it off and turn it on whenever you want, by the way.
Sure. Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah, okay. Let's hear it. Let's hear what the news is with that, because like we all know, everyone loves the Netflix one. It's good. And
yes.
It got canceled, right?
What do you know about the comic Born Again?
Hey, Biffer is here. And also, Christy Joe says, Sad Monkey's playing with his Enterprise toy from Wish. No wonder
Hey,
he's
Biffer.
sad. There we go. That's a good idea.
Hey, Biffer. Good to have you here. How's it going? Old friend.
Oh, friend.
Yeah. So yeah, what do you know of What do you know of Born Again?
Nothing, just that it's Disney and they're going to reboot.
Like you don't know anything about the
Blade.
comic or nothing. You know nothing about.
No, I just
nothing
heard
about
that the comic was probably good. That
it.
like
Fuck's sake.
that series was good. It's called Born Again. That's what I know.
Yes.
Is it like Ultimate Spider-Man?
I never read Ultimate Spider-Man.
But Ultimate Spider-Man, the concept is that it's a page one rewrite of Spider-Man.
No.
Ultimate
No.
Spider-Man is that. It's basically starting from the beginning, but it's the millennial version.
No. Blade Runner Born Again is not that at all.
No. You said Daredevil, not Blade Runner.
I say sorry, Blade Runner. Yeah, no. Daredevil is Born Again is not Ultimate Spider-Man at all. Born Again is like one of the best comics, one of the best Marvel comics of all time. It was probably
high praise.
It is just absolutely like it is dark and it is gritty and it takes Daredevil just into the depths of despair, where his former girlfriend Karen Page basically rats out his secret identity to get some drugs, right? Because she's a junkie. She's become a junkie. Yeah.
Okay.
So it is dark. And then she has to live with the consequences because then the identity gets told to Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, who then just is full on goes after Matt Murdock, right? Completely destroys his life. Almost kills him. And then it's all about this, this kind of rising from the ashes storyline where he has to kind of obviously
rebuild himself.
He has to rebuild himself. So he has to confront Karen Page about what she's done. Then he has to decide what he's going to do about the Kingpin, all that kind of stuff. And it is, it really is a terrific comic. Yes. So yeah. Kay says, Frank Miller knows how to strip for short. Yes. No, it is.
That's Frank Miller?
Yes, Frank Miller. Yeah, it is. It's stunning. It is a great storyline.
Frank Miller, whose drawing writer David Bishop said was not as good as mine last week.
Yes,
that Frank Miller. Sorry,
that one.
I just had to. I'm not gonna forget that.
No, you shouldn't. And it's one of those things where it's like Born Again. I'm totally down for this storyline, but I don't see Disney Plus doing this storyline justice at all.
No, they're not going to do it. They're going to put somehow it feels like they're just going to put She-Hulk in there somewhere,
Probably. And it's like if this was Netflix, I would have felt a little bit more confident because the Netflix series were dark, they were gritty, there was cussing and there was nudity and there was like actually there was real life stuff going on in there as opposed to bouncy council shenanigans in the general MCU. Whereas this I'm worried for a specific reason, and it's down to a couple of recent interviews that Charlie Cox, the guy who plays Daredevil, said.
What did he say? What did Charlie Cox say? What did he say?
This new Daredevil Born Again is being classified as beginning again. And when asked, so Kirsty Joe says, wait, why did Disney take Daredevil from Netflix? Ew.
Well, because they own the rights, don't they?
Yes. So this is what's happened is Disney started their streaming platform and they wanted all their toys back, right? So that meant taking Daredevil and all that kind of stuff, right? And then they bought Fox, so they got Fantastic Four and they got the X-Men, and now they're just waiting on Spider-Man, which they will probably never, ever get.
Yeah, Spider-Man's too popular, but yeah.
Yeah, which is funny to me. So
it is very funny.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, we'll see. But I'm worried because Charlie Cox was asked, he was asked, does it feel like a continuation? Does this new Born Again, does it feel like a continuation? And first off, he says he doesn't know. doesn't know, hasn't seen the script, doesn't know what's going on, right?
Doesn't
Other than
know.
that, it's based on the comic book Born Again, but says that there's a sense that it is a new beginning and that it's going to be different and it's going to be tonally different, and that is the
Okay,
big
yeah.
thing. That's one of the big things that worries me. That's mega worry number one. And I'm like, tonally different to me sounds bad because I've seen Loki, I've seen She-Hulk, whatever else, Falcon Winter Soldier, the general MCU, like those tones don't match for Daredevil. And it's going to be weird going from 3 seasons of a dark and gritty Daredevil to a light and frothy, jokey Daredevil, right?
Frothy.
Yeah. You know, substanceless Daredevil.
Right.
Um,
That's disappointing.
yes. And
Especially when Charlie
go on.
Cox, right?
Yes.
He just went like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's early stages, so he literally knows nothing, But Chrissy Joe says, Sony to Disney, you can have Spider-Man for the sum of Dr. Evil Voice $100 billion.
$100 billion. I don't know how.
Kay says super violent courtroom drama in one episode. I mean, there's scope for that, but I don't see them doing it. I don't see them doing that.
Yeah,
in
that's
the
the
Disney,
thing, right? Like
on the
everyone
Disney
keeps
side.
saying like, "Oh, this upcoming thing from Disney is going to be gritty and, dark," and then it comes out and it's not. We all forget about what we were predicting and it continues and it's bland and then we just move on with our lives. Just like,
Yeah.
I mean, to me, She-Hulk is that. Like it was funny while it lasted, but now I'm just kind of like, it happened.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing, the second mega worry is that Charlie Cox did say that Kevin Feige is calling this season a season 1.
He's calling it season 1.
Yeah, so it's not season 4, right? So it is a decidedly new entry of Daredevil, which makes me think, okay, are they going to push the sort of variant nonsense? So the Daredevil of seasons 1 to 3 is some other world,
Oh, come on.
you know. That's kind of that's the vibe I'm getting. It's the only real explanation as to why you could justify such a massive difference, right?
I don't understand why they do that. I don't understand why they do that. Why don't you just grandfather some stuff in? But they never do that. They always feel like there's always somebody who feels like they have to be like, no, this isn't our version. We want to make ours.
well, what doesn't make sense to me at all is that, like, Kevin Feige, Disney Marvel, gave Netflix these shows. It wasn't that they had them before the MCU. The
No,
MCU was,
yeah.
they gave it out to them, let them do it, and then suddenly once Netflix was taking off and these shows were doing really well and people were loving it, people were loving this darker Marvel stuff. Then Marvel retcons it, MCU retcons it, and is like, oh well, this stuff doesn't count, and you're like, why doesn't this count? This doesn't make any sense for this to not count. And then now they are re-retconning it to be like, oh, well, maybe it did count because we have them back and we can do stuff with them now. But do they count or don't they count is the big freaking question. So yeah, based on these comments that have recently come out about Daredevil Born Again, I am very, very worried. I feel like it is, and I literally just reread the comic as well, just to kind of refresh it in my mind.
Just to make yourself more disappointed.
Yeah, because I was just like, it's so tight. The writing in that comic is so tight. The storytelling is so,
Exciting,
brutal. That I'm like, having when you got stupid She-Hulk twerking and Loki wanting to make out with his variant and stuff, and you're just like, come on, like they're not going to do this justice at all. I don't see it. I'm worried. I don't know if anyone else is, but personally, I am.
Yeah, man. I think you have very good reasons why to feel kind of worried about it. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, really. It's unfortunate.
It is.
Don't know what to say other than that because I think that's all we know about.
It is all we know. But yeah, so
But you remember the 2003 movie, right? That one's great.
well, that was terrible, but you know,
I
that was
watched
a very, 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 very different time.
it. I watched it with because they had like audio track for the hearing for the visually impaired,
Okay.
and it was a guy narrating the action that happens while the dialogue
Right.
was going on.
Yes.
He looks up and sees Daredevil's silhouette in the moonlight.
Yep.
It was
Yep.
great.
I remember those. I remember when I was a kid, the only VHS when you could only rent VHS. That's how old I am. From the library. Anytime I wanted to rent a couple of Star Trek movies, they only had the visually impaired versions. So
No
I would
way.
yes, so I would sometimes rent like I think it was Star Trek 5 and maybe Star Trek 1. They only had those on visually impaired.
Oh
And so
wow.
I would rent those and watch them with the description going on.
Wow. Dude. So now,
Yeah.
so you have those voices in your head where it's just like he stands and looks up at Kirk with a loving gaze.
Yeah. Yes. 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 Or other sort of weird descriptions of maybe of what's going on. But yeah,
Uhura dances with very seductive hips.
Ahura dances seductively on a sand dune, silhouetted against the night.
There you go.
Oh, we'll never forget that scene. Oh God. God bless you, Nichelle Nichols. God bless you.
She's great.
So,
So,
the main topic of discussion tonight.
the main topic, baby, came up
Is
like a freaking daisy. Like just popped out like
Andor.
daisies.
Star Wars Andor. So,
Ooh, I got an idea.
I don't know if anyone saw my little YouTube short. But I kind of jokingly, was saying, hey, we're going to be discussing Andor. You remember him, the guy from Rogue One who brutally murders someone at the beginning of the film and who doesn't have a character arc. Well, now he's got his own show. And, well, now he's got his own show, and we've seen the first 3 episodes of
Yeah.
that show.
Yeah, we did.
What, without going into
We didn't.
detail.
Yeah, by the way, me and Luke, we didn't talk about it at all.
Correct.
So we have our first impressions now. And,
Yes.
I don't know. Who's
What
gonna
is
go
your
first.
first and what is your overall impression of Andor?
Why did it take 3 episodes to tell a 1-episode story?
Valid point.
Thank you.
But beyond that, what are your not going into detail of what's going on, but like generally, what are your overall impressions of what you've seen? Like,
I want to see a Star Wars show, and this is a very contentious thing to say because people have been saying it for the past 7 years now. I want to see something that is Star Wars.
So what is it about Andor to you that isn't Star Wars?
It just feels like it has a Star Wars candy wrapper. It doesn't. There's nothing to me that makes it feel like it's exciting. And exactly what Biffer says. Thank you. My first impression of Andor feels like a sci-fi show with no Star Wars, no lore, no fun. And I tend to agree.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. My overall impression of the first three of these first three episodes of Andor is that yes, there is some structural problems. I think you could absolutely cut the entirety of episode 2 out of the list. Episode 2 is quite pointless.
Dude.
And yeah, so I feel like visually, I really can't fault Andor. I from watching Boba Fett to Mandalorian and Obi-Wan, I have to say I do think that Andor does visually look really good. There's never any of those sort of this is super fake moments while I was watching it. I think it brings to life a gritty, lived-in world, right? That was something I liked and I appreciated.
Sure.
My
The first episode I watched, I was like, see, I mean, look, at least they got something right there. It didn't look like a set.
Well, yeah, it didn't look as bad as Obi-Wan, which was just you can constantly see there against the screens and
They
things like
are.
that.
It was
And you can see the same problem with the second season, particularly of The Mandalorian. Kay says it feels like they went to bed when making Solo, and now they're trying to make a Solo level story for a new character that isn't Han. That is a big complaint. People have basically have made comments about how this character just feels like Han Solo, but you don't have Han Solo to do a good film with.
Right? Yeah.
The other big impression that I took away from this was this show is definitely not for kids, which I don't know if that is a positive or a negative. I feel like it might be more of a negative because Star Wars is really a kid's property. It's at the end of the day, it's about good versus evil, and about that sort of striving to do good and striving to let the light overpower the darkness, right? Where this show is very much just very grim, very dark, very gritty, very adult. I mean, even that first scene where he gets into a kerfuffle with the guards and does the classic Andor thing and just point blank
just shoots a guy
someone in the head. Yeah. So it's kind of it's interesting to me. I found myself enjoying episode 1 mostly. I found myself struggling with episode 2 and then feeling that episode 3 was the better episode 2. And
I feel like yeah, okay. No, episode 3 was the better of the episodes, but it made me frustrated because like what happens in these 3 episodes? It takes 2 hours to establish.
It's not 2 hours. You have to realize, and we have this is another Disney problem, is the first 2 minutes of the show are recap and credits, and then the last 6 minutes of every episode is credits. And none of these episodes have a timestamp that is 60 minutes. One is 42 minutes.
I know, but if you combine all 3 episodes together, that's like okay, so 30 30 30. So an hour 30.
Yeah.
Let's say.
It's probably like an hour and 15. When you cut all of the credits out.
But then why did it feel so long?
Well, it felt so long because nothing was happening.
Well, that's what I was saying. I didn't want to say nothing's happening in case, because I know that that's a very easy thing to say, but
yeah. So Biffer says Andor should be a story about a damsel in distress and a bromance and androids with comic relief. I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I know what you're saying, and I don't disagree. And yes, but where I think Andor has initially missed the boat is he is a guy who is down in the dumps. When we see him in Rogue One, he is He's not anything great. He's just this rough soldier for the rebellion. We find him here, and he's just some poor dude doing some stuff. And they missed a trick by not making his story a tragedy, a proper tragedy. Someone who comes from, you know, the heights of the best kind of life you can have, the happiest life you can have, and then finds himself down in the trenches. And why they haven't done that with this character is frankly quite surprising. Because that is really the perfect story you could tell with him, as opposed to what they are doing so far. Because
Are you getting distracted by my drawing?
no, I'm just pondering. It's one of the things where, you know, the initial plot of these 3 episodes. First off, what do you think? What you tell me? You tell me the plot. What is the plot? What's going on?
Well, he's looking for his sister, and he's doing a bunch of scavenging. Apparently, he works in London or Manchester or wherever what have you, which didn't look like Star Wars land at all.
No,
and
looked very Blade Runner-y.
Yes, there's some Blade Runner-y things in there for sure.
It did actually kind of look a bit prequel-esque. It reminded me of some of the worlds in like the pod racing Nintendo 64 game.
That Nintendo 64 game. And then there's this company that is looking for him because he shot 2 people in cold blood.
Yes.
Who were their employees. So they're hunting him down, and then Stellan Skarsgård. Oh, then there's this whole like flashback thing where we see his youth living in South America, space South America, and scavenging again. And there's a bunch of yellow people who are dead. And that sounded... I meant literally like yellow people.
Their skin was yellow, yes.
And we see how the Dursley mom picks him up.
Yes. Yeah.
And, you know, like adopts him. And...
I mean, at the moment, you're just talking about scenes. You're not really focusing on what the plot is.
But that's because, it's very simple. Then it's just he's looking for his sister, and he's being hunted. He's being tracked by a company that wants to take him in.
Correct. And that is it. That's the plot.
And then Stellan Skarsgård is like, "Come with me."
Yes. That is the plot. And there was a big problem with what they're doing, and the problem is that it's very unfocused. And it's unfocused because, yes, the first scene is him in this brothel on this planet looking for his sister.
The brothel, it's just... Oh, never mind. I'm not gonna...
Yeah. But after that scene, for the rest of the episode 1, 2, and 3, we hear nothing about his sister and about his want or desire to find his sister or where she is or why she's gone.
I'm surprised. I was surprised that happened. I thought they forgot.
Well, it does feel like they have forgotten. And I think that is one of the major flaws so far with Andor is you started the show off with him looking for his sister. Can we just cut it with the Star Wars and the family stuff? Like, not everyone has to have some kind of family journey. Like, Rogue One was about the girl with her mom. This is about Andor and his sister. Luke, Leia, blah, 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 blah. Like, enough with the family shit. But if you're going to do it, then you need to do it. And that was, I sat there this whole watching it thinking, where in the world is Andor? Is his push to go find his sister? He's on this planet. He's here asking about her. You know, what is the point of all of this? The point of all of that seems to be a moment for him to get into this confrontation with these 2 cops and, you know, kill them, and then ultimately have this company come after him. You know, these And I'm like, well, you could have done that without this sister thing. The
I know.
idea, the idea of him being chased because these rogue cop figures wanted to rough him up and take some of his money and stuff like that. Like, that's fine. Like, that's an interesting premise where he's an interesting enough premise where he's needing to prove maybe prove his innocence, sort of thing. You do sort of a fugitive kind of storyline with this particular guy, maybe something along those lines. So I think that was a really big misstep for Andor, was starting off with his sister thing and then immediately dropping it. The other kind of the other problem that I think you have is, like I said, like, this is not going to be for kids. You really can't let children watch this show. And I think Star Trek, Star Wars, trying to push a lot of adult sort of.
This is what happened in one of the scenes.
I mean, kind of.
It did. I was like, oh wow, I didn't know they'd say that in Star Wars.
Oh, did they actually? I missed it. I didn't hear them.
I was surprised. I was like, huh, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I think that's a big problem. I think alienating your kind of kid audience is probably a bad move, because that's really all Star Wars really it should be appealing to that particular demographic. But yeah. So
Yeah.
the thing is,
Funny, I'm trying to draw more of the characters from this show, and I can't think of any except for the boring couple.
I didn't really find the couple boring, but
I found them like, I just didn't understand. Like, there was a lot of back and forth of like going from one place to another, delivering information. Like,
there was that is definitely another structural problem with Andor, and this is why I say, if you cut episode 2 out and episode 1 goes into episode 3, it becomes a little bit better, because things are moving at a faster pace. Because again, forgetting the whole thing about the sister, the other thing is that Andor has this piece of technology that he wants Bix, who's the girl at the junkyard, to sell to Stellan Skarsgård, right? And that again could have been the driving force of the thing, that Stellan Skarsgård wants to know how he has this technology, how did he get it, and that inspires him to offer him the Obi-Wan thing of it's time for you to come with me now and accept your call to adventure. They absolutely could have done that with that particular thing, but again, they've started off weirdly with this whole sister thing. But if if you think about the general idea of either him trying to run from this murder and needing to kind of absolve himself of that, but also getting in with the rebel people, it's almost like the movie, this episode has simultaneously too much story going on while also not enough story going on, right? And that was kind of
balanced out with the next episodes, is the question, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we've already invested 3 episodes out of 12.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And I feel like that is a reason why they dropped 3 in one go, is because they were trying to, just give as much for people to consume as quickly as possible, but then leave him on that cliffhanger of he's just getting off the planet, right? Which realistically should have happened in episode 2. Leaving the planet should have been episode 2, in my opinion. Christy Joe says, sounds like someone making a D&D character and coming up with the reasons to run into the party looking for my sister. Yeah, I think there is a little bit of that.
That's really good. Yeah.
And I do feel like that's actually a bigger problem with Disney Plus shows in general. They all sort of follow that structure of kind of board game, video game storytelling, where it's like, oh, we open a room and there's a monster, have to defeat the monster before I can get into the next room, sort of situation. And I do think that holds it back. But at the same time, there was a little bit less of that in Andor, and it was more sort of just general. It's really episode 2. I found myself, my overall thoughts on episode 1 are that, I think I generally enjoyed it. I think the pacing and the structure could be better, but they are better than Obi-Wan and the Book of Boba Fett by a long shot.
I just think they have completely different problems.
What do you mean?
Like, compared to Obi-Wan and Boba Fett, this has like just different problems to solve that the other two didn't. The other two were just predictable, and just basic, boring, like just fundamental writing mistakes. The Boba Fett and Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
This one isn't like that, but this one just, it doesn't feel like it has anything to offer yet, because I haven't seen anything that intrigued me or appealed to me yet.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the problem with these 3 episodes, and the problem with the writing and the structure is all of the intriguing bits are being kind of pushed aside and not allowed to breathe as much as they can, which is why I'm saying, like, I think the idea of him having to run from these cops is fun. I think the idea of him selling this piece of tech to Stellan Skarsgård, who offers him a chance to go and, beat up the people who are oppressing the people. I think both of those things are really great ideas. And the setups in the show, the way it's set up is fine. There's nothing wrong with the way it's set up, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either, no.
But I think it's what's happening in between those scenes. And I think, again, so I keep saying episode 2 is the thing that lets it down the most. But yeah, so I do think, like I said, I didn't watch them all in one go either. I watched episode 1 in the morning and episode 2 and 3 in the evening.
I watched them all in one go.
I mulled it over a little bit more with episode 1 and really found myself thinking, no, I did enjoy episode 1. It's not perfect, but it set up everything that could be fun, except for ignoring the fact about the sister stuff, right? And when episode 2 came around and they weren't quickly getting to the buyer, i.e. Stellan Skarsgård, when they weren't bringing up the sister stuff, when the police were kind of doing their investigation but not getting there quick enough, it was just that's where I think that it dipped tremendously in episode 2, but which was a disappointment, which is why it was interesting watching 1 and then 2 and 3, because I got through 2 and then once I got to 3, I was like, oh, the story's finally picking back up where it needed to go.
Yeah.
And again, it has that sort of stretching a thin story too far.
Am I drawing Biggs or am I drawing Cassian? Who knows? Wait, it's Biggs now, and it's Cassian now. When you give him a beard, it's Cassian. If you have a mustache, it's Biggs Darklighter, baby.
Yes.
I should have just made Biggs the movie.
No, God, no. So Kirsty Joe, you make a point where she says it's poor in terms of following on from her for other comment, is that it's poor characterization and writing, and I think that is kind of one of the big problems that I did have. I was like, well, I really needed a reason to root for Cassian Andor. I need a reason to be on his side.
Yeah, because right now I don't know why he's here, what we're doing with him.
Correct, and that is this is kind of all tied into the biggest flaw of the show, is we don't know what his wants are, what his needs are, at all, because we're all over the place. Is it the sister? Is it the selling the thing? Is it the running away from the police? You have 3 different ideas that could be the premise for your whole season, all fighting for you know, place in these 3 episodes, which deters, because watching it, like, I sort of, I enjoyed the relationship that was kind of being presented with Bix and with Cassian. Why not? Why you shake your head like she was so terrible? What was so terrible about her?
Because there was nothing. There's nothing about her that was like, I guess I just, it didn't get me. Like, I was just thinking, okay, what about the sister? Okay, what about the chase? What about this? What about that? It just didn't feel to me like this felt to me like just um a roadblock to me. I don't know.
Well,
Like, it
he
just
he
didn't.
needs her to sell the thing so he can get money to leave the planet.
I know, but it's just he needs her to do the thing. It's like, just cut out the middle.
Yeah, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can't do that. Like, sometimes,
Sure, okay, fine, I understand that, but to
that's like
me,
saying, hang on, that's like saying Han Solo, we just cut out Han Solo because Obi-Wan should just have a ship of his own.
yeah, but Han Solo brought a color to the flow of the movie that I don't believe what's her name did.
Bix.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Silly rabbit.
I
Bix
don't
are
know.
for kids.
I don't know. I kind of liked her.
Okay. I mean, fair enough.
like
Look, I don't disagree with you, but I do disagree with you.
That's fine. No, I did. I found myself liking. It's like, okay, he needs someone who can kind of. I kind of assumed that she was going to go with him on the adventure. So at the end of the 3rd episode, when she's not with him, that's where I was like, oh, interesting. I thought she was from his childhood at the beginning, and then clearly
Right,
she's
because
not.
they kept going. They really pushed that. They really pushed that
Yep.
flashback.
And then B, I thought she was going to go with him, and then she didn't. So that was also interesting, which then sets up the other problem with the show is he said at the end, oh, I promise I'll come back. Why? Why do you want to come back, Cassian? What is it? What is it about here that you need to come back to?
His foster mom?
Which again was such a weird, mishandled storyline. The foster mom. It's like I said, there's things that I like about it, but then there is still a lot that I dislike. And I think I was liking a lot of the setup, but then it was just all mishandled once it was set up. I think the mom thing was a big problem with the show.
Okay.
I think the flashbacks to Cassian as a child on this primitive planet, whatever, former mining planet that was destroyed because of a mining accident.
Oh my gosh, what's happening to the feed?
What is happening? Should I remove it for a second?
Yeah, just you remove it for a quick second.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Yeah. So like, I think what was so weird about that was the fact that she was that this exploration of his childhood. We're watching them walk about these in the woods, and they see this ship crash, and they don't speak English, and they have no subtitles, and we don't really get any sense of like what is this village's,
What's their deal? What's the dynamic? We get a little bit of the dynamic, but it's not. I don't know. Like, it's so hard to say anything other than it wasn't interesting.
Yeah, it
know,
wasn't
I'm trying to
interesting.
not
It was
Yeah. Is it okay to bring in the card where I say it wasn't Star Warsy?
I mean, it's fine. Bring it if you want. That's your
That's
card.
what it felt like. Like, I was just imagining. I was watching some of those scenes where they're like putting on the makeup and
Yeah.
like and like just being being a tribe, and then I was just thinking to myself, pretend this isn't Star Wars. Yeah, it feels like a a Netflix sci-fi movie show.
Yeah.
And even then I'm just like, but what's their deal? Like,
Yes.
are they like the Lost Boys? I don't know what's happening. I don't like saying these things, but but to me it's kind of true, like what is happening? Like, what is their deal? Like, what are their reason for being there? Why are we shown this?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, there's that is to me that bugged me every time we went back to these flashback scenes of the tribe stuff. It never really progressed. It didn't progress anything. It didn't tell us
No,
anything about him
that
as a
too.
kid. It didn't tell us anything about the tribe. It didn't tell us anything about the people he was with. And then, you know, all it really is to set up this long-winded scene, this long-winded moment of him beating this ship because one of the people inside killed one of the tribe's people, who I don't know what her connection is to Cassian. And then for some reason, Aunt Petunia just takes him away because the Imperial
Yeah, it
people are coming.
doesn't even go like, what about your friends?
Right, just takes him, but is happy to let the others die. I'm like, why is he so special? Why does she want to save him? There's no explanation. There's no reason shown for why Aunt Petunia would want to save Cassian.
Give me the reason. All right, screen's back.
Yeah, I was sitting there, as I was watching it. I was thinking, like, if I were, you know, if you were an actor, you'd be like, okay, well, what's my character's motivation? And I'm just like, whatever it is they're telling her, they need to be putting that into the story, because we do not know what her motivation is. We don't know. We have, you know, even at the end of episode 3, when he jets off and we see this sad scene of her sitting there on her own, lonesome with the little robot bee or whatever its name is. We don't really understand their relationship or their dynamic either. What is their current day dynamic? Like when he went back to the house in episode 2 and she's there, I'm like, wait, who is this? Why? What is going on? Why is he living with some old woman? Like, what is his job? What is he doing? Like, what is going on? The whole thing just felt, it felt like they spent way too much time thinking about the aesthetic of the show, right? How they wanted it to look, how grimy they wanted it to look, and how pitiful, you know, they wanted his existence to kind of maybe be. And then kind of wrote scenes that fit that, as opposed to, you know, actually writing scenes that allowed us to explore who he is. Because I think that was one of the biggest problems with Rogue One, is the only character we really understood was what's her face, the main girl from Rogue One, Jyn Erso.
Gin and tonic.
Yeah, Jyn Erso was the only one we really understood, and even that was very basic surface level stuff.
By the way, screen's back. Sorry, I just wanted to
okay.
know if you want to put that back on.
But Cassian was very much a blank slate the entire time, and I think that's what kind of interested me here. I was like, okay, well, are they going to flesh him out a bit? And I'm not certain that they really have done that. I like I said, I understand that he comes from this little tribe, but that's not character. That's not character. It's not characterization. You know, we see him brutally murder those cops. Okay, well, he doesn't want to be murdered by them, so I kind of get that, and stuff. But again, I just kept watching the episodes. My repetitive note was, I need to know what his motivations are. I need to know what he's getting at. I need to know why we're doing the stuff that we're doing, because it's just there's bits that I'm interested in, but overall there's things that aren't landing.
You want to compare it with Smallville again, because there's always something convenient about Smallville being
there is, and I think this is the problem. One of the big problems is the mode of storytelling, and Disney are terrible. Disney is terrible at long form storytelling. They have not been. None of their shows have successfully accomplished that at all.
I'm surprised.
Loki was a mess. Falcon Winter Soldier was a mess. What else have I seen on Disney Plus?
Yay!
Oh yay! Well, thank you, Petrus. I'm so glad that you're
enjoying watching this. Thank you very much. Glad you're watching.
So am I. Yeah. So the long form storytelling is a big problem. Oh geez, it's having some issues. We'll take that away for a bit.
We'll take it away. Take it away. Tway with it. Tway.
So yeah, the what they really need to think about is what do they want to do? She-Hulk is an utter disaster, right? Because She-Hulk is both trying to be a episodic show with a weird story arc, with a weird series arc, but nothing is working, nothing is happening, right?
But there's never mind. No, I'm not gonna. There's people who are like saying, but it doesn't have to. It's just like a slice of life, kind of, fun, zany.
Well, yeah, but you can have slice of life. Go watch Friends. Friends is a slice of life where stuff happens. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. Where
Thank
characters
you.
go
Thank
through
you.
something. And so thinking about it, it's like, well, they need to decide what they really want to do with this stuff, because they clearly are terrible at the long form storytelling. But also, why does it need to be long form story? Why
That's
could
the
this
question everyone needs to ask themselves before
Yeah.
they do this.
Yes. Why couldn't this show, similar to She-Hulk and Loki, why couldn't this stuff just be episodic, right? And you mentioning Smallville. A really good example of that is, well, all of their seasons, particularly 2 and 3 and kind of onwards, have some sort of general series arc, right? Again, X-Files is another terrific episode of a series that does this, where they have their legacy episodes, where there's the myth that they're building is growing out of specific episodes every season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about season 4 of Smallville with relation to this, and in season 4, great season, Kirsty, you would have seen it, but the series arc is Lex is trying to put together and find these particular rock elements, these foreign alien rock elements that are apparently scattered all over the world, that have alien symbols written on them. And the myth is that if you put them together, it will create it will allow you to access a library of knowledge untold in human history, right? So obviously, when
I thought you were gonna say Doomsday.
Nope.
It's
When
gonna
Clark
create Doomsday.
when Clark realizes that this is going on and these rocks are Kryptonian, there's this series long chase between who's going to get this stuff first, right? And eventually, the end of the series, Clark gets the rocks, puts them together. It creates the crystal that he then uses to create the Fortress of Solitude.
Oh wow!
It's a terrific series end. Like it was a great ending to series 4. Because it really was, because really what that was doing is that was also Clark's last season of high school. So it was saying childish things are done. You are now moving on into the adult world with season 4 into 5, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have that's kind of your series arc. But then throughout the season, everything is episodic. There's episodes where he's hanging out with, like, meeting the Flash for an episode, or whatever, things like that, or he has to kind of have an episode where he goes toe to toe with someone on the football field, and you kind of think, okay, well, why in the world, again, why does Andor need to be 12 episodes of one single continuous story? Why can it not be, this is his episode 1 is how he joins the rebellion. Episode 2 through 12 are all the different things that he, as a rebel, is doing to combat the Empire.
Yeah.
And maybe he's got some family member, some love interest, something that he's trying to find or get back
Sister.
to, whatever, and
no,
that
we don't want no family stuff. No family stuff.
Yeah, and that can be your series arc, or maybe the series arc is, if this is Andor and you're building towards the Death Star, your series arc is finding the plans, but finding out the information about what is this secret weapon that is being built, right? Mm-hmm. That can be part of the general series mystery that then comes to fruition in the end. Because, like I said, one of the biggest problems with this show is by not making it a really impactful tragic story, it's kind of, it does sort of lose its umph. It's like, well, he doesn't come from any high place. Philip.
Oh,
He
did
doesn't
it
come.
again. I
He doesn't.
did it again.
He did. He doesn't come from any like high position. He's not really. He doesn't have anything to lose. And I'm like, well, and at the end of this, he's just going to lose his life. So he's like someone who's down in the dumps, in the trenches, who just stays in the trenches and then just sacrifices his life because it's the right thing to do. And it's like, that's not really that interesting of a character arc in general.
Is it an arc?
Well, it's not really an arc. It's just kind of a flat line, And I think that's one of the things where they really missed a trick with this show is I do think they should have done something more with him. They should have taken him from some lofty place and kind of destroyed that, and then he becomes a rebel for whatever reason that is, which I guess maybe they didn't do that because that is effectively Jyn Erso's story, but Jyn Erso was a child when she was separated from her parents, I don't know. Yeah.
I agree with all these statements, Luke.
Yeah,
the other thing that I complain about is just that it didn't feel very much like Star Wars to me. A lot of this, the environments and they all look great, but like they look better than Obi-Wan or Boba Fett did, and Mandalorian to an extent. But like, there's certain things that bug me so much, and it's where's the imagination in all the worlds? Because it, like I said, it felt candy wrapped, kind of like it's literally, it's not literally, it's Earth, but it's just that we say different things about it. And I think one of the biggest things that just made me go, oh, I can't believe this, is that when Bix wakes up from bed in the morning and she's
like,
I
know what you're gonna say. Oh God,
thank you. I'm glad.
I did cringe mightily at that.
Do you have some cough or whatever she
calf.
said?
It's calf.
You have calf.
CAF. I had the subtitles on and I saw them. I was like, caffeine? Are you serious? Are you serious?
That to me is a good like signal here. The example. It's like, this is just Earth, Yes. I was thinking to myself, like, my brain was just going like really fast, being like, well, I mean, you could do anything. You could be like, there is no breakfast here. There's no breakfast in space. Let's just do that. You know what I mean? You make something else up. Just do something creative with it. But it's also, all the aliens as well. Most of them are just very Star Trek-y, because I always associate humanoid aliens for Star Trek. Like, they always had the makeup.
Yes.
And with Star Wars, I always imagine just weird, crazy, kooky character, like shapes. And I feel like they keep missing. I know it's expensive, but that's what you've inherited. That's Star Wars. Like, just we need more of that fantasy element. And I don't feel like this is the least of the Star Wars shows from Disney that we saw that has like none of that. It just feels like Blade Runner, England.
I mean, I would say that Obi-Wan probably felt more unoriginal than this.
You mean you mean the California planet? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, only because at least with these 3 episodes, we are only in one location. So I can forgive a little bit of not having diverse aliens for that. I mean, there was that one really big guy with the fishy head.
There was a big guy with a fishy head, but I would like more of those in other positions in the, like some of them in the company, some of them in like, every, I don't know, like it's.
I know what you mean though. When
something they struggle with all the time with these shows and movies.
Yeah. And
it's funny to me that looking back at Rogue One, I'm just like, that was actually, in comparison, I'm just like, I want to watch it again, because that's probably the best thing. in comparison to all of this.
I don't know if it is. I have no idea. I wouldn't be able to tell you what is the best Star Wars thing that has been produced since Disney took over. I really wouldn't. It's all so bad, in general.
Mm.
And I mean, some of the things I liked. I mean, the thing is, it's Andor is a weird one for me because I'm mixed on it. There are things that I liked. I enjoyed watching his character more in these 3 episodes than I did in Rogue One. Even though in Rogue One he has nothing. In this, there's something, but they're not getting to it.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
what's
yeah,
frustrating. It's
yeah.
like there's the sisters, there's something, but they're not getting to it, and that's what peeves me off. And I'm like, well, if you would get to something, if you would get to this, maybe I would enjoy it more. Maybe I would like him more. Um, again, like I said, I was enjoying the dynamics. Again, I sort of liked the idea that the jealous boyfriend called him in, reported him to the police. You know, Tim
Sure.
with 2 M's, by the way. That's how they
Very,
spell.
very Star Warsy.
That's how
Yeah.
they spell his name in space.
Tim is
Tim,
gonna give you some calf
some
in the
calf.
morning.
I liked the thing is again it's one of those things where I liked the dynamic that they were setting up with those 3 characters, but then unfortunately it just became a bit of a dud in the end. And I wanted more from that. But I generally liked how it was initially set up. And this is what I'm saying. This is why I'm mixed on this, because there was things like I didn't really like, but I liked the cop. I liked the deputy inspector guy who's like desperate to prove himself. But there's also problems with that. And the main problem with that is we're introduced to him speaking to his superior, and he's going, "These guys were murdered. We need to solve it." And his superior's like, "Nah, just make it sound like they died heroically." And then the superior leaves. But then this guy keeps going. And what I'm sitting here wondering is, well, what is the backlash? Why does he want to prove this? What is his wants and desires and needs, right? What does he hope to gain by proving this? Does he want to make a name for himself? Does he want to take his boss's job? What is he trying to prove by pushing forward?
Well, you got to find out in the next episodes.
Well, we had 1, 2, and 3, and so you kind of like, well, that was another missed opportunity. It's like, no, you really should have established something about why he's doing this, because then you have the interesting scene of him trying to rouse the troops, and he failed miserably. And I was like, I like this. I like this idea of this gung-ho guy who wants to prove something, wants to make a name for himself, but once he's finally in that position where everyone's looked to him, he suddenly like chokes, and he doesn't really have the motive. He doesn't have the power to motivate people via his words. And I was like, that is interesting. And again, this is why I'm so mixed, because I think it was Robert Meyer Burnett who does the Post Geek Singularity channel on YouTube, which is terrific, and everyone should go watch it because I love his stuff.
Post Geek Singularity.
Post Geek Singularity. Yeah, no, he made an interesting comment about Andor. If I can find it, yeah. So he says that Andor is tremendous. The level of maturity on display has been something sorely needed in the Star Wars universe since 1980. I am inclined to agree with what he's saying, except for this tremendous bit.
Okay.
Because I do agree that there is a stronger level of maturity in the show. It's not wacky. It's not silly. It's taking itself seriously throughout the whole time. And when you look at Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, Solo, even Rogue One, like it is just zany, stupid nonsense. It is boring. It is uneven. It is juvenile. It has weird jokes. It just doesn't, The Last Jedi was nothing but what did Red Letter Media say? Like excessive misfirings of comedy or something along those lines.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
you
something
know,
like
it wasn't taking anything seriously,
Rian
and
Johnson isn't very good at that.
no, and the original Star Wars had maturity to it. There were tense moments. There were, big character moments and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that Andor is as good as the original trilogy, but I do have to agree that this is one of those things where I feel like there are Star Trek fans who are just so desperate for Star Trek that are happy with Strange New Worlds because it feels, quote unquote, feels like Star Trek, even though it's just a poor copy. It's a cover band of Star Trek. This might be a similar thing, and that hey, these 3 episodes are at least trying to take themselves seriously. They're trying to take the threat of the Empire seriously. Andor is taking his whatever it is he's trying to do. He's taking it seriously. There's no sort of and so there's things like that I like and that I do enjoy about it. And this is again why I'm saying I am really very mixed on Andor. I think there was a lot of stuff that was set up that was good. I think a lot of the execution ended up failing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a write-off yet. Am I interested to see the next episode? Mildly. Will I? I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I think that's the same with me. It's like I'm mildly maybe, just because I don't know what they're getting at.
Mm.
Don't know.
And I know that in episode 4, like Mon Mothma turns up, and then it becomes all, So we'll see. Who knows what happens with that? I don't know. But yeah, so I'm just sort of like, I don't know. I think when I compare this to like Lord of the Rings of Power, or She-Hulk and all that kind of stuff, I'm like that stuff was so terrible and has been so terrible and unwatchable, and I do not want to go back to it at all. Is it that this is just so average
by comparison
that people are more interested? Because it's not night and day difference from Mandalorian. It is closer to Mandalorian than anything else. Which the first season of Mandalorian I did enjoy.
And then they kept pushing like, oh, I don't want to get into Mandalorian. Never mind. Just continue.
Oh, I mean, you could have done. What were you gonna say?
I mean, like, just like the third season, I remember hearing people saying it's so exciting to see Mandalorian season 3, and I'm like, are you serious? You serious about that? It's just the pacifier again.
Yeah.
The Vin Diesel movie.
Yeah.
Like, why isn't really Grogu should have stayed, because there's no reason for Grogu to continue being, because I thought this was just going to be that first season, but it wasn't.
Yeah, well, I think they realized that. I mean, it was probably one of those things that got to the end of the Mandalorian season 1 and thought, we really cannot get rid of this baby Yoda because too many people like it. This is the draw for the show. Because I agree.
I mean,
because you got to wonder how long can this infant Yoda be hanging about unable to speak?
I don't know.
It's weird.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I think it's time to just get Baby Yoda out of there and think of some new stories. Get some expanse to this Mandalorian.
Well, I mean, that's not going to happen. I did see where someone else was saying one of the reasons they were enjoying Andor was because of the more kind of grittiness of it, that made them feel like they were reading one of like the extended novels, part of the extended universe stuff.
okay.
And that's something I know nothing about. I never read any of that
Christy
stuff.
Joe does.
So, Christy, did you watch the show, The Mandalorian? Have you watched not The Mandalorian, Andor,
The Andalorian.
The Andalorian? Have you watched The Andalorian? Does that kind of ring true? Does it feel like it could be one of those novels, those Star Wars novels?
Did anyone in the chat read any of the novels?
Okay, no, because you haven't seen it. That's fair enough.
Nope, lol.
I mean, it is a tough one. I struggle in terms of like trying to decide is it worth recommending? Do we recommend this to people? Do we suggest, oh yeah, go watch Andor? You know, I'm not sure. I'm still not sure. I think I'm still sort of settling my opinion on the show, but my initial reaction is that there was good bits, but it does miss out in its execution. Chris says, I'm a fan of a lot of the books, most of the older stuff considered, quote, legends. If I ever make myself watch Andor, doubt. I'll let you know my take on that. Well, that's fair enough.
Have you seen my sister?
I mean, the thing about the sister thing, again, is like, well, we saw him on his home planet as a kid, and I thought I guess there's that little girl that he keeps sort of hugging and stuff. But then he leaves the planet with the woman with Aunt Petunia. You know,
Aunt Petunia stays.
You know, but where's the sister go? Where's the sister go? Yeah, Barry. Yes, he started watching Andor. The opening sequence is strong. Yes. There, I
was like, ooh,
agree.
Blade Runner, and I was like, this is relevant to what we're talking about today.
Yeah,
no, those are my thoughts.
That was literally like my first note on this was
and then Tron, a little bit of Tron.
I suppose. Yeah. Didn't get too much Tron, but yeah. My first note was opening looks more like Blade Runner than Star Wars. But then I said it sort of reminds me of the prequels a little bit. Yeah, very strong Blade Runner vibes. I don't know why Star Wars struggles to come up with original, like...
I just think that they just don't have the right people involved. Or maybe there's something in the management that is just kind of... We don't know what happens behind the scenes. You know how many times Kathleen Kennedy fired
yes.
directors?
Yeah.
You know, maybe there's just this staff of people who are just like, we have notes for this. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
There's so much secrecy these days.
Yeah. Did you notice there was in terms of awkward moments, the awkward musical moment?
No.
At the end of episode 2, there is like the score changes from, like, you know, you think of Star Wars has the big orchestral John Williams stuff, right? The rock and roll music with proper drums and electric guitar going on. Yeah. I was like, whoa, Star Wars.
Whoa.
What are you doing? Like,
what is this?
This was like the Star Wars equivalent of the Pirates of the At World's End, where the electric guitar screams in when they're walking on the sand dune thing. Yeah,
it's good.
That bit was weird. The other kind of silly thing was, why did he have a toy bantha?
Why is all his children's stuff still there? In general,
I guess that's a point. I guess he has the... I mean, you say that, but look around me. Why is all my children's stuff still with me? I mean, all of that is from when I was like 7.
Yeah, but you're not like in the in the boonies. You know what I mean?
If the
You're not in
only
the
thing he
slums.
has, if the only thing he has from his home
Oh, but
planet is
you're
that
just saying
spear.
Bantha. Why? That's a planet called
No, no,
Tatooine
no,
that
no.
no one is.
There's two things. There's two things. The thing that he has from his childhood is that weird speary pipe thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
So I
see,
understand.
again, that's just a real world weapon. I don't understand why they couldn't think of something more
Well,
imaginative.
it's a primitive tribal
I
people,
know,
so that's why. But my point is, he has that because that's all he has. That's from his home. That I understand. That I'm fine with. What I don't understand is why a bantha, a elephant monster from Tatooine, is
yes,
like the toy to have.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I said. I said from a
Yeah,
planet called Tatooine that is
yeah,
supposed to be on the outskirts that no one cares about, no one knows about. Are you
yeah,
serious about
yeah,
just making it relevant once again?
yeah.
Making
That
Tatooine
that
so much
was
more relevant than it
yeah.
is.
I saw that and I was like, no, that no,
These
he
things
wouldn't
glaze
have
over me now. I'm just like another stupid whatever.
that.
That's how I feel now. It's like, oh, another stupid thing that I have to mention.
Yeah, I do think they could have scrapped all of the flashbacks. I really do.
Okay, I'm done drawing. I don't have anything else to do. You can put up the picture if you want. But that's it.
Star Wars.
I think this is my favorite.
Yes. Oh, is that meant to be his sister?
Yeah.
Obviously, my sister. Yes, yes. The other thing that was interesting to me, and maybe this is something that comes out in episode 4, um, but not and not here, but there was all this sort of discussion or talk about sort of him being an immigrant and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And I really didn't get any of those vibes from watching these 3 episodes. I'm like, well, I wasn't really getting the immigrant vibe that like so many people on Twitter were talking about.
Oh, they
Um,
were.
yeah, there's a lot of people talking
Oh,
about
they
how
were.
yeah, he's like an immigrant, character and all this kind of stuff. What are you doing? Um, I can't talk. I can't think when you do
Sorry.
that. Distracts me. But yeah, so it's like, yeah, I don't really know what like
This
where they're
is
getting that
yeah.
from.
Yeah. This is kind of I think I don't know if we talked about this enough times or not, but like it's just I just find it so fascinating that you put images on like in a show. You see it in media, you see it in movies, TV shows, theater, books, whatever. And
Yeah.
it's just an image. It's just like, yeah, he came from space South America and, to space, you know, industrial Britain. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much it. That's where he came from. But does this, like, and that's it. That's the image. And nothing's done with it. How
Mm-mm.
did this affect him? What's his background like then? What makes him unique from everyone else who lives there?
Yeah.
With that comes your storytelling toolkit to tell what he's like then. That's why you bring it in, right? That's why you bring it up,
Yeah.
right? But it's not there. There's nothing there. He just came from another planet. Big deal. There's nothing of substance that matters,
No.
right?
No.
So that's what I don't like about when I see people talking about, oh, can you believe that he's from another, he's from another planet. It's like it's a allegory, whatever. It's like he's an immigrant from there, and it's like gonna tell you, and there's nothing. You're just picking that out of thin air.
Yeah.
You know?
I think as well, like I never this is why I also don't think that Star Wars is not the best media to like dive into serious political topics. Um I think it really just needs to be about good versus evil. And just
I think so.
milking the hero's journey, because that's, it is a fantasy, and fantasy is all about, I mean, fantasy is about, allegory and things like that, but they're rarely about uh, political allegory. It's more about morality, moral allegory. What is the right thing to do, sort of thing. Um, I don't think George Lucas didn't. He claims that there's politics in Star Wars, and I'm like, no, there's not, sir. No, we don't serve those kind in here.
We
Like
don't
that
serve
that doesn't that
political.
doesn't count, bro. So yeah, I
Oh, look
think,
how bad this is.
yeah, it's yeah. So I think,
That's too bad. Next time I'm gonna use my my Cintiq.
oh, that's all right. But I think that was a missed trick. I think by them trying to go this particular route with it, I'm like, well, is that interesting? I'm not sure that it is. Um, I don't know. I mean, again, this is people are saying this on the internet. I'm not seeing it in the show.
Yeah,
So it's also sort of like, where are the people from the internet getting this idea from? Is it from episode 4? I don't freaking know.
that
But
didn't
it's
come
like,
out yet.
Star Wars needs to stop being a vehicle for politics. It's really not. None of the stuff has really done that. I don't think. Um, it's
So
just
this
sort
is
of,
how liberty dies, with thunderous applause.
you know, it's just yeah. I'm
The
like, no.
first galactic empire
Yeah, no. It's like, it's stuff like that. Like, we don't need
left
that
me
stuff.
scarred and deformed.
Um, yeah. So I don't. Yeah, I think there's a lot of. Oh, there was the other bit. I just thought about something. Um, in this show, Chris Joe, though, she says Georgia Star Wars has its own political scene, not necessarily shoving real life politics into it. Maybe what he meant. No, he tried. He's tried to say that he was like making social commentary, and there was a difference. I should specify, there's a difference between, I suppose, making social commentary of things that are happening in the here and the now, versus having, quote, the general politics in your storytelling. Because I mean, all writers, all stories will have some sort of politic in their stuff. But I should specify that I'm really referring to yeah, social commentary is what is being meant by politics these days. But Did you recognize or click that moment in the conversation between Andor and Skarsgård, that allowed him to explain why Rogue One was a successful, why they could sneak in so successfully in Rogue One?
I glazed over.
So there's
That
this moment where Skarsgård's like, "How did you get that technology?" Because he's got this super super sweet technology that he's
Yeah.
retrieved somehow, and he's like, "How did you get it? I need to know." Um, and his excuse is that he just walked in and acted like he belonged, and they're all so arrogant that they don't even care, because they're all so happy to belong in this sphere, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, that that doesn't compute, because if you're talking about social constructs, if you're talking about the social, hierarchy, um, if you don't belong somewhere, if you're going into an area that is not your typical demographic of people, like, if you are a poor person and you walk into the Ritz, they're gonna know, they're going to undersee that, well, what's this hobo doing in here?
That was, yeah, that was a very.
And the
That
whole
was
reason they did that was to say, this is why it worked in Rogue One, because we had the uniforms, we looked like we knew what we were doing, and therefore no one questioned it.
like in Obi-Wan with that one woman who went into the very secure base that's so secure that they don't have any security because no one
Correct.
would dare go
Correct. We don't have any shields because no one would dare attack us.
in.
Okay. Yeah, so I noticed that line. I was like, oh, that's a bit silly. That's a bit stupid.
I don't know what they're doing with this, really. This is,
Yeah.
what is this, the fourth show now? Is Mando, Boba, Obi-Wan,
Yeah. This is it.
this.
Yeah. And it's got 2 seasons. They're already filming season 2.
Why? What's so special about? What's so special that this little show's carrying?
Well, they're saying that it's only meant to be 2 seasons and that's it.
Right, because there's a limited time frame that you can put all this stuff in. But
They're saying that basically this ends where Rogue One begins.
sure.
And so what they're trying to build is this seamless narrative between the beginning of Andor that moves all the way through to Rogue One that ends right where A New Hope begins, and you just carry all the way through. Do you remember when we were in high school, and I would always complain. I always complained about the extended universe of Star Wars because there were all the TV, all the cartoons, all that kind of stuff. There was the prequels, the cartoons, the books, the comics,
Yeah.
and I would always say, gosh, it's so ridiculous that they are literally trying to account for every minute of every day in
Oh
this
yeah.
in this universe. I've
Let them
always
have fun, you know. Let them
I've
have
always
fun.
complained about it. I've always thought it was overdone. And I do feel like Disney are doing the same thing.
Yeah, they're doing the same thing on a corporate, like, I don't know, like with Lucasfilm, at least they had like it felt more like a community of people who love the material got to have them published and made. Cuz they were never movies or shows. Maybe, you know, maybe in the future if George hadn't sold it off to Disney, they would have done some shows and stuff like that. But it always felt kind of people came together for Star Wars because they loved it and they wanted to, you know, have fun with it. And that's kind of how it felt like with me and all the books, because they were all kind of optional too. You know, I actually kind of share your sentiment, because sometimes I go to Wikipedia and I just read, you know, the history of blue milk, and it's just so hilarious to, you know, because there's so much detail for everything. And I'm like, that's the nerdy thing to do. If you like doing it, that's fine. It doesn't affect me, doesn't affect any Star Wars that I watch. I don't have to, I can disregard everything and just watch episode 4 and be like, this is the original. There is no Empire Strikes Back. Darth Vader is just Darth Vader, how he is in the movie. He's no one's father. And off I go. But but with Disney, it just felt like they took it and they clamped it down with the, you know, with the empire of consumerist conglomerateness, and then they just are pumping out this stuff that you know, if I was in high school, I'd be like interested in seeing it and being like, oh, that's so cool. You know, there's so much more of the Star Wars world that we can see officially, you know, in movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
But it just feels so, like, I feel like this whole thing just feels disingenuous.
I mean, I agree with that. I mean, it's
compared
Disney,
to the extended universe in the old days.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. I understand that sentiment, because I also feel that you could probably say the same thing about Star Trek. I mean, I know there was you know, the Star Trek, the canon really has always been whatever was on screen, not what was written down. I think what was written down was always sort of, you know, you can kind of pick and choose what you want to consider canon, you know, or not.
That's fine.
But yeah, but I you know, but I don't think Star Wars ever went this. Star Trek went this extreme with it. They weren't filling in every gap along the way, and now that
I'm
you
surprised
know,
at that. Actually, I thought Star Trek would have the same.
No,
I mean,
you
know, I've never looked at Trekpedia or whatever and seen what people are writing and, you know, in the books.
I mean, there's loads of information. There's loads of stuff out there, but there's just, you know, not. It's not. in terms of accounting for everything, there's not an account for every little thing. Whereas, you know, here there is. And what I mean by accounts, I mean minutes. I mean minutes of the universe.
Minutes of the
You know,
universe.
there was a plethora of books about the ships and the universe and things like
Yeah.
that, and things, plenty of stuff like that, schematics and whatever, tons of that.
Yeah.
But in terms of accounting for every minute, it's it's not like that with Star
It's
Trek. And
not. It's interesting.
I think it's another reason why I like it so much, to be fair.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Didn't know
like,
that. Didn't know
yeah,
that. Actually.
yeah. But
I would I always imagine it being pretty similar.
no, thank God.
Because like Klingon has its own language. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that again, that's different. What I'm saying is Star Wars accounts for every minute of its universe. There's no lost minute. Everything is
Sure.
accounted for, right? There is history, and there is in Star Trek, and you can read up on the history of things. But in terms of, if you think about, the original series takes place 80 some odd years before Next Generation. They're not filling in that gap.
Mm-hmm.
They don't use new TV shows and things like that to fill in that gap. They don't fill in that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Which is what I'm referring to. They don't fill in the gap of sort of what happened between the films with another film or another TV show, or fill in the gap between what happened between the original series ending and the first movie. They're not doing that. Now, someone's going to say, what about Strange New Worlds and what about Discovery? Well, you know what? They don't count.
They don't.
They're not canon. They're not canon. They are alternate universe. They don't count. They don't match. So they don't count. So it's fine. I guess the only thing I will be corrected on is Enterprise. But Enterprise doesn't fill in a gap. It's just a prequel that takes place like 100 years before Kirk, right? So it's, again, even that isn't filling in some leading up to gap. It's sort of just, it's still quite far out there. Whereas, again, Star Wars, like I said, and Andor is literally going to be, you watch Andor into Rogue One, into A New Hope, into Empire Strikes Back, into Jedi, and it's just one long stupid thing. And then after Jedi, you watch Boba Fett, and then you watch Mandalorian, because it all takes place right after that, right?
Okay.
It's just
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
endless.
Did you
Endless.
about, like, I was wondering when I was watching that first episode of Andor, and then it just went 5 BBY, and I was like, does Luke know about this?
No, that's a good point. I had no idea what any of that was.
Oh,
What was
well,
that?
that's before the Battle of Yavin. That's the AD and BC of the Star Wars timeline.
Remind me what the Battle of Yavin is.
That's the Death Star trench run.
Oh my god. Star Wars people are such nerds.
BBY and then ABY, of course, after Battle of Yavin. So yeah, so Star Wars, what was it? Star Wars Episode 7 takes place, I think, was it 35 ABY, 40 ABY, maybe.
Oh my god,
it's great, right? Isn't it great?
I just, it's too much. It's too much. It's too much. You can't do that. You.
I can't believe that they don't have that for Star Trek. Like, that, to me, this is like nerd central, and I can't, like, that's the weirdest thing about it. But
there's no, like, Picard, pre-Picard. There's no. At least not like massively. I've never come across that. I've never come across some sort of ADBC kind of thing with Star Trek. But Star Trek is meant to take place in our reality, or
right. So then they would, like, but do you know the date? Like, do you know when Kirk, Spock, and the gang went out from Earth? Bum bum bum.
Well, they use star dates, and no one really knows what star dates mean.
That's interesting. That's so fascinating. I thought that they would have had that down, like Stardate. I thought my entire life, I thought Stardate. Yeah, that's probably some. Like I think all the Star Trek fans know what that means. That means like, 300 years, after the year 2000 or something. I don't know.
No, I mean it's. I mean,
Interesting.
just quickly looking up, Stardate is a fictional system of time
Fascinating.
measurement developed for television. Yeah, it's. There's no sort of like
Wow.
we
I am
don't
shook.
really. I've never really found an explanation as to what it specifically means. Um,
I am bamboozled. I am surprised,
mhm,
quite frankly.
yeah, I mean,
Guess I'm
someone
just
can
used to
correct
all the
me.
Star Wars stuff then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure
Didn't
someone can
realize.
correct me on the Stardate stuff, but like, I mean, I remember trying to look it up once, and there was not like a solid answer. I mean, you can kind of sort of follow Stardates, like you kind of get an idea when each show is taking place, but like translating that Stardate into a year, dunno, dunno.
Someday you're gonna have to make me watch more Star Trek to understand, because like I don't. I'm just. I'm not very. I'm familiar, but not familiar enough.
Well, Philip, if you've forgotten, next week we are talking about Star Trek.
That's right. It's gonna be
So
so
you have
exciting.
1 week to get yourself up to scratch
With
because
what? Like, what do you recommend me primarily doing? I'm just thinking TNG best episodes done.
I would
make it so.
like I said like 3 weeks ago, sir, I would say look at like the top 10
I
of
will.
every show, of every original show. So TOS, Next Gen, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, right?
Should I go
Look
in
at the
order?
look at the top 10 for all of those and watch like the top 2.
Should I go in order?
I mean, you can watch whatever order you want. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Um,
Will I know the characters enough if I just do one random episode? Because I know TNG enough, but I don't
yeah,
know, I don't know Voyager. I have no idea about Voyager. No idea about Deep Space Nine other than Captain Sisko.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, you would probably be okay. I mean,
okay.
each show sort of. I mean, again, that is also the beauty of episodic television, is
Which no show wants to do these days.
well, no streaming show wants to do.
That's what I'm saying.
Plenty of standard television does it still.
I'm
Um,
so I'm just always so impressed at how much content and so much story they can cram into one episode and then do a whole new episode in the next
yeah,
episode.
yeah. I mean, there's
Dude.
definitely with the episodic stuff, it doesn't reset the characters, but you do sort of understand they have to let you understand the rank and position really quickly in like Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, so you understand what their role is. um Whereas things like Andor, like stuff like that wouldn't work.
No.
But yeah, so I would do that. I would watch those sort of bits between now and then, and then maybe cap it off with a couple of episodes of stop humming because I can't concentrate. Um, a couple episodes of what's the show called? Dang it, Lower
Strange New
Decks.
Worlds.
No,
Oh,
no, no,
Lower Decks.
Lower Decks. Because Lower Decks I enjoy, but again I don't consider it canon.
Okay.
It sort of adheres to canon, but it's Rick and Morty, so it's kind of making fun of everything and being tongue in cheek with Star Trek. So yeah,
sounds
so
good.
I'm reluctant to consider. I don't consider it canon, but it is fun. Because I think we'll talk about all that stuff next week with Duncan Barrett.
With Duncan
Um,
Barrett. Who's Duncan Barrett for the viewers at home?
He is
For the
a
folks at home.
author and podcaster and Uber Star Trek fan, and works with me at Noiser on the podcast.
Nice. There you
Yes.
go. That's something to look forward to for next week.
Yes, so that would be a lot of fun. Yeah, looking forward to a good old Star Trek chat because I'm interested in
My
discussing
opinions.
all the opinions. All the opinions. Yeah, no, I'm interested in obviously looking at discussing some of the Star Trek Picard season 3 stuff. But we'll see what
That's
happens.
right.
But yes,
That's the much anticipated season 3.
well, it is shocking, but it is. But yeah, so he also has the Star Trek history and culture podcast called Primitive Culture. That
Primitive Culture.
Yes, that you can go and people can go and check out in the meantime.
Cool.
But yeah. Anywho, I think we're probably done.
I think we are. I think we've came and said what we wanted to say.
Indeed. So, Blade Runner show, not sure. Daredevil, very uncertain. I can hear myself in your headphones, and also, and yeah, Andor.
Jog
Give
off.
it a go. Give it a go. It's worth a go.
It's worth say that.
Go. I'm mixed, so I think it's worth a go. I'm gonna say give it a go. It's better than some of the other Star Wars stuff, but it's not the best Star Wars stuff. But I think give it a shot and see what you think, as opposed to just me saying don't go see it.
Okay, I mean fair enough.
Whereas
I'm
Phil
a little more onto the negative side.
You're a firm no.
I'm pretty much on the negative side. Yeah,
that's all right.
I think we gotta see what is next in this show, because like seriously, it's not a strong start for me.
No, and the real tell will be next Wednesday. Am I even going to remember that it's on?
Yeah.
Am I gonna want to see it? Am I gonna think to watch it?
Yeah.
Or not? But yeah. So there we go.
There we go.
Coolsies.
Another Luke Deckard show has been achieved. In the bag. Next week's gonna be great.
Next week will be a lot of fun. We will see everybody then.
Yeah, if I had money, I'd buy like just a like a T-shirt or something for like a Star Trek uniform or whatever. I just.
Oh god, that'd be hilarious. I do have a Star Trek shirt. I could wear a Star Trek shirt. That might be a bit too much, but maybe.
All right. Christy Joe says, have a good night. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Please follow me on Twitter and follow Luke on Twitter. Luke says a lot of very funny things on there, and he brings up quite some interesting topics. And I just do art, but not so much anymore, unfortunately. But I'm going to try to get back into it. So commissions are open, by the way. So, so if anyone wants me to draw something for you, I can do that.
There you go. Go to Phil, get some commissions done. And yeah, no, earlier today, I had a bit of a rant. There's an author who is a celebrity author who people were praising. The bookseller on Twitter was praising this individual's astronomical sales, but we know that actually his publisher purchases the number one spot in their store, in certain stores. Yeah, I'm just like,
there you go. It's like
it's a hack.
It's that Dumbledore gif.
Yep. Hack. Anyway, cool beans, man. We will see everyone next week. The 20-something, 28th
be there next
at 7:30 p.m. Adios.